98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. I'm yours truly, Mᴏᴜ Akinyosoye. It's an amazing Tuesday morning right here. I want to believe it's an amazing one all day on the other side of the radio as well. Hope you had a restful night, and I'm hoping that you have a splendid day. Hey, you have to worry less because we've got the best companion. You have got the best companion for the day to spice up your day and set the best tune of pleasure for you for the day. So welcome on board. Trends in the Papers is set to grace the airwaves with vital content of some major interesting updates embraced immensely in our dailies, which are definitely worth our gazes and attention. And of course, our in-house analyst would, as usual, be on standby to dissect and holistically give his perspective to the stories we have in our papers and newspapers this beautiful morning. We'll be paying attention to the major newspapers, the Punch, the Vanguard, and the Guardian newspaper this morning, the sixth day in the month of May 2025. They are the sixth day in the month of May, and we have less than 26 days to our kiddies party. Oh, yes, I'm always happy about that, because when as with children, kids, it's always an awesome experience, and you don't want to miss that. But do not fret, we'll give you the full gist at the cost of this program, so stay tuned. We'd love you to enjoy the ride. So welcome on board. Trends in the Papers ready to come your way this beautiful morning. You can join us on Facebook and YouTube to enjoy an audio-visual experience, as we always provide that for you at every point in time. So go to Facebook or YouTube at Mila 98.3 FM, and then you join us live via Radio Garden. Just search Mila 98.3 FM. Trends in the Papers on Mila 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. So with Mᴏᴜ Akinyosoye, and we'll be joined by Said Fawad. We'll be giving several perspectives to that as much as possible. So you're welcome on board once again. We'll be getting good morning to you. Hope you had a restful night as well.
Yeah, it was a restful night. A bit busy though, and I think the networks are just crazy this morning.
I think it was around like 4 a.m. Around 4 a.m. this morning.
I can't say for sure in my area. I'm not sure if
it just rained. It was just like seconds.
Maybe it drizzled anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe it was drizzle.
I don't know. Maybe the rain took away the network or something. I don't know.
Oh, money. We'll always find a way to do our job.
Anyways, definitely we'll always find a way, and sure Said Fawad is also ready to make your day a beautiful one, especially this morning on Trends in the Papers. Without further ado, let's take a ride together to the worth checking through on the front pages of our dailies this beautiful morning. Said Fawad, the concluded JAM or the performance of students, and we saw the report of the fact that
for the exact number that wrote the exam,
out of 1.9 million.
Out of 1.9 million.
Yes.
So over 1.5 or below 200.
Yes, whose results were released, not all. Now let me give the result of the 2025 UTME, and then it has been raising concerns about mass failure, as more than 1.5 million out of 1.9 million candidates whose results were released scored below 200. And according to UTME, UTME is definitely graded over 400, with each candidate, assessed in 4 subjects scored over 100 marks each. And a breakdown of the result released by JAM yesterday showed that 983,187 candidates, which is in percentage 50.29%, scored between 160 and 199. That's 50%. That's the highest percentage, and the marks or the score was between 160 and 199, not up to 200. While 488,197 candidates, that's 24%, like 25% in percentage, scored between 140 and 159. And additionally, 57,419 candidates, which is significantly fewer, because only 4,756 candidates, that is 0.24%, not even up as well, scored between 300 and 319. And this brings the total number of candidates who scored 300 and above to 12,000, less than 0.63%. If you want to approximate, maybe 1%, like that. Not to give further details, because we have further, the Punch had to give and also 17% scored between 200 and 249. But basically, the major issue here is over 1.5 million candidates who sat for, and the UTME scored below 200. For what really is the problem here?
Lady Mo, it's a problem. It's an either-headed problem.
Examination about, because it was CBT, we had issues with the computer malfunctioning also. We have several complaints about that. But just...
But I don't know how far that would have accounted for this terrible performance we're seeing, this terrible result. Because again, if 1.9 million students wrote an exam that was supposed to score them over 400, and only less than over 1.5 million students out of 1.9 million students scored less than average. I think that all of this, what it means is that we probably will get students going to university with 150, 120, 130 the students. Now, I'm not surprised, Lady Mo, and I'll tell you. First, it starts with the students. It starts with parenting before we now talk about the schools. People will tell you that, smartphones are supposed to help the students get better because there's a lot of information they can also dig. Even adults have to contend with, the level of distraction that you find on social media. How much more these students, who almost 20 hours of their life are spent on smartphones. And most of these social media handles look at the content. There's nothing educative about it. Just more of entertainment, people just passing around. And it gets these students unnecessarily distracted. Look, it's not easy to sit down and read as a student. It has to take some level of seriousness, consciousness, and determination to do that. So I'm not surprised. You look at the average students around. The second one, to check whether really some of them even take their books, read after school and all of that. So parenting too is failing gradually. The third one is the psychology of the fact that, look, education is not so important. Maybe this one can decide to even go and write job. Now you have people who tell you, why do you have to go to an institution to make it in life? They have a lot of social media influencers who have never stepped into the four walls of the university and are making hundreds of millions of naira. If you understand what I'm saying. They have them. They are there influencing them, putting out content, and they see it as a way of life. So the idea that, look, I have to do it what it takes to get into the university is not as important like we used to have it. And then the schools too. A lot of the private schools are not able to, maybe one, graduate somewhere. So far you're a graduate, they just bring you into the system. Training is not complete. So, like I told you, it's a higher problem. It's more sophisticated. It's a big problem that we have to look into. You can't be having, out of 1.5 million, scoring less than half of the marks. It's a call for concern. If you permit me to say, you probably have to declare a state of emergency in the educational system. But who's going to bail the cat? The guys who are supposed to schools all over the world, and for those of them, they have their children back home in Nigeria. They know the schools to send their children to. Where have you forgotten the former governor?
Former governor of Kogi State.
You know
Kogi
it.
State.
They say they paid in advance. So how would that kind of person bother with the quality of education in the state? He's able to sort himself out. It's unfortunate. I don't know, but
Fuad, you're talking about, speaking of multifaceted criteria. You spoke about parenting and all of that. Just to broaden that perspective as well. According to JAM, they said beyond academic performance that they expressed concern over the various operational challenges that were encountered during the exam. According to JAM, they are saying that 97 candidates were caught engaging in exams on alleged malpractice. Absenteeism was also part of the factor that JAM also is bringing out, and also absenteeism, which with 71,000 of the absenteeism and all of that.
But JAM should also fix his own problems. There were complaints, serious complaints about, posting of students to, extremely far areas. The time that students were expected to report at the exam centers
as early as
because of security concerns, 6:30 and all of those kinds of things, and you have to go very far. sometimes, parents have to accompany their children, look for a hotel to stay in some of these areas. Then the CBT centers too. This idea of generator going off and on. You have a situation where JAM does not want to own up to any problem from their own end. If we must write CBT exam for this JAM, we don't have to rush it through 3-4 days. If the CBT centers are not available, for us to have it in 3-4 days, can we have it in 1 month? It was how people who wrote the JAM, who have children who wrote the JAM, who said that, look, that was the situation. The CBT centers generator was going off and on the system. Sometimes they say they even log up and dismiss people who raise some of these concerns. It has not been a perfect exam also from the level of JAM when it comes to conducting this exam, and they have to look into it, please, for only 1 year. A lot of other international exams are valid for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's only JAM that is only valid for 1 year. So, and if it was the value for 1 year, if we must do CBT, we should not be hearing of glitches, generator going off at CBT centers and all this kind of nonsense that can even throw the children off guard and make it so ridiculous for them to write this exam. So some of these things we have to look into it and be sure that if we must write CBT exam, we don't use it to affect the students with some of these challenges we are seeing with our CBT center.
Yeah, just quickly moving ahead to buttress your point here. Even people have also criticized the performance, and according to a medical commentator, criticizing both JAMB and government. We also have even career advocates and education and career advocates attributing the decline to performance in lifestyle choices and poor attitude towards education. Even an ex-user pointed to a disturbing shift in the youth's priorities nowadays. So a lot of things actually, but with what you've just mentioned, we've a long way to go. It's
a big problem, and I know what I'm saying. It's a problem. From every angle you look at this issue, it's a problem that I don't think we are ready to resolve. I'm telling you. So for every angle, anywhere you look at on this particular issue of our students, just look at the average performance of some of these students in the university, and you understand what I'm saying. They leave school, you find them as interns, you find them as core members, and the average university, for example, when it's a public owned by government, look at the number of students, look at the lecturers, they are overworked. They don't even attend classes again. It's a big problem. Unfortunately, nobody's paying attention to fixing this issue. Nobody. Forget about what the politicians are saying. They are not committed.
Across board, actually, the Guardian captures that. Page 3, because it's of concern. Page 3 in the Guardian newspaper has that story, and also from the Vanguard newspaper, we also have that in the Resuming Today. And we're already having back and forth. The Punch is reporting on...
You see that they enjoy themselves well.
Well, we'll see. And then extension of May 1, Workers' Day.
They put all everything together.
Yes, it was a joint, they are
welcome.
Recess. Rep and Benue Governor clash as National Assembly resumes today. That's how the Punch puts that from in the papers. Of course, we recall that the two chambers had on March 27th, to be precise, proceeded on break to mark the Eid al-Fitr and Easter celebrations, and fixed the earlier fixed Tuesday, that's April 29, 2025, as the resumption dates. But however, the Workers' Day celebration, which was on May 1, led to the extension of resumption by additional week. And even while on the break, we definitely saw and witnessed a lot of things culminating in calls for even President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to even cut short his vacation in France, then to return home to lead the fight against insecurity from the front. But coming to the resumption, as the National Assembly resumes from its long recess today, the House of Rep and Benue State government have now disagreed on the reasons for the spate of killings in the state in the past few months. While the deputy spokesman of the House, that's Philip Agbese, blamed Governor Hyacinth Alia for what it called his abandonment of the state anti-open grazing law for the increase in the killings of innocent citizens in recent times, the governor had to fire back, accusing him, the spokesman, of knowing next to nothing about how laws are suspended in state legislatures. And of course, we had attacks in Ukom and Logo, to be precise, local government areas of Benue State in the past 3 weeks, which had left no fewer than 56 persons dead. And with Governor Alia last week appealing for federal government intervention to stem the tide. And speaking exclusively with the Punch, like the killings of defenseless Nigerians and destruction of their property, saying that as they resume today, that they are prepared to tackle squarely the issues of insecurity across the country, that they are tired of observing 1 minute silence in honor of the death all the time, blah, 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 and all of that. And on the incessant killings in Benue State over the past few months, the governor, while calling on the governor, that's Agbese, and Zamfara state counterparts, Dauda Lawal, also to appear before the House Committee on Public Petitions as directed by the committee chairman last week. Last week, the committee summoned the two governors along with the taking over by the House of Rep. For what?
You see, I'm hoping that, and I sincerely hope, and with every seriousness that is required, that our politicians will understand that, look, there are limits of lives and property. There has to be a red line. There are points you don't cross when it comes to playing politics. We know the deputy House Speaker, spokesperson, relationship of George Akume and the governor now. I think it was the same person that even removed the portrait of the governor from his office when he was clear that, look, at the level of the House of Reps, to ensure that safety, security is brought back properly to those communities in Benue State. You can see that the first thing was for him to attack the governor. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So at that point, this is just political. When I talk about real commitment to solving a problem, this is exactly what I'm talking about. He has returned from his long holidays now, only for him to come back and think that, whatever must have happened in Benue State was a big opportunity for him to attack the governor, without really addressing the concerns and real issues of insecurity in that state. And so at that point, the real issue is lost in their useless politicking that they just want to throw around. We are talking about hundreds of people that have been killed in the last 2 months in that state, only for somebody to come up there and throw political issues to the way we play politics. And it can never be when it comes to the issue of security of lives and property. People are dying. So at the end of the day, we said it here, yes, we know the governors have roles to play, but there are limitations to how far they can go in securing their own people. It's just what it is until there's a constitutional amendment that allows the states to create state policing structures that is of national name and nomenclature. They call them the chief security officers of the state. But they are not in control of the security apparatus of their different states. Still stops at the desk of the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. It's not something you can continue to push aside or try to pretend about. It is what it is. Why do you think there was a call for the creation of state police? How far have we gone on that call? Where are we on it? And until that happens, it will be difficult, I repeat again, to blame any governor solely for the issues of insecurity in their different states. A lot of them are helpless. Genuinely so. Yes, we understand they collect security votes, but again, that's a money that's almost like a giveaway if you look at structural challenges we have when it comes to security in the country. I hope the people of Benue State to pay attention to these things and find a way to continue to protect themselves. These guys are not serious.
All right, that very story. Thank you for that. In the Punch newspaper as well, trying to navigate the front page of the Punch, but don't worry, we'll just keep giving you what is going on in our newspapers this morning. Still trending on the papers on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. You can join us on Facebook and YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. On Radio Guardian, search Mainland 98.3 FM. The Punch quickly before we move ahead to other newspaper from the oil sector. Major petrol and diesel price cut expected over this has now slumped again. However, the marketers who spoke said that the drop may not be immediate, but they are saying that it has to do with the stability of the new low prices, which will then result to the drop in both petrol and over the weekend. The prices hovered around $65 as of last Friday. However, yesterday, the benchmark Brent was trading at 59 according to oilprice.com. And Nigeria's Brass River and Tᴏᴜ stood at $64.60 per barrel. The prices were over 10% of the 2025 budget. And as the fall in crude prices impacts the federal government's revenue negatively, Nigerians are quite hopeful that this may translate to cheaper fuel at the pumps, and crude oil prices and the foreign exchange rate are the major determinants of refined product prices. Should we be cheerful? Should we be hopeful and optimistic about the development forward?
The funny thing is that while we are hopeful about something positive in terms of pricing of petroleum products, I have my concerns about the mess that this will create for our budgetary provisions for 2025. You know that budget is based on $75 projection for crude oil sales.
Crude oil, yes.
And if the reports we are getting is already showing that crude is already selling for less than $60 per barrel. So whatever projections we have at $75 per barrel becomes a nullity. And so what it means is that, look, our revenue projections from the sale of crude oil will become a problem. What it means is that we have to begin to look at, again, borrowing more and looking for ways of funding a lot of the provisions we have in the budget, even though a lot of them completely wasteful. That has been signed, it becomes the official document for procurement, for spending and appropriations in 2025. So, yes, hopefully we might begin to see some marginal drop in the price of petroleum products. Again, I've read that, look, output is more now. The U.S., of course, with the tariff, President Trump's tariff and all of that, causing a lot of disruption in global attention too. We also have to look at the cost of producing crude in Nigeria and where the crude is coming from. Are we going to be relying on locally refined petroleum products, or we are still talking about importation? So those are some of the indices that we have to aggregate to look at this issue and see whether, look, there's something positive that will come out when it comes to the pricing of petroleum products. But my mind is more on what would happen to our budget 2025, since the projection is on $75 per barrel, and now we're already dropping below $60 per barrel. It could drop more because, again, a lot of global crises are showing an outlook of us even running close to $50 per barrel in the next few months, which is going to cause a lot of trouble for us in funding our budget. It's just what it is.
All right, that's on page 29 in the Punch newspaper. Just quickly before we move ahead, also from the front page of the Punch, we have 8,000 terrorists, 8,000 terrorists and bandits were neutralized across Nigeria in 2024 under the administration of the present president, while he was assessing the performance of the administration. And he also added that beyond the killings, over 11,600 criminals were arrested, while security forces recovered more than 10,000 illegal firearms from administration success in tackling terrorism and banditry. Among other achievements of the president, would earn the president a second term in 2027. And
check the papers, all true. There are still killings in different parts of the country.
And reports of attacking
villages, communities,
collecting firearms and all of that. Do you think that
achievement of the government in fighting insecurity? But the reports of killings have not stopped. That's not even abated. It's getting worse. That's why I say, if you check across the papers, look at, and people are still losing their lives. I think in one of the communities in the north, I'll try and pick that up. There was even a clash between that gun battle. So, because again, you can see that for every statement they make now, as achievement of the government, they keep telling you that, it means that they are not committed to doing anything. That is what it means now. Reality is showing something completely different. So who is now going to pay attention to the real issue? It's unfortunate, really, that we find ourselves in this.
Someone is saying the terrorists and bandits killed under President Tinubu. Anyway, that's on page 2.
They've killed 8,000, but they are still attacking villages, killing our people.
Page 12 captions.
This is not a figure that will mean anything to Nigeria. Until the killing stop, the figures don't mean anything.
Well, page 12 captures that on in the Punch newspaper. Also from the front page, federal government approves 1.8 trillion naira road project, a new contract. Page 2 captures that. On student loan, the update here from the Punch says Minister meets VCs as NANS blocks Lagos about a highway. Page 12 captures on...
why are they blocking the highway?
Protesting against, especially the ex-student graduates that...
You can see that there's a problem with these NANS, the way these ones are thinking. This was never the NANS that some of us participated in. There's a problem with loan student regime. That's the problem. Oh. That is the problem, and we've been talking about the thinking pattern. There's a challenge between students paid, they were not disbursed on time, blah blah blah. You know,
hello, Fuad. Let me try to call you back. The network it's breaking. Yes.
Can you hear me now? No.
Oh, okay. It's better now. It's better now.
Okay. They should leave the expressway and go and don't know what to do. The NELFund office is there. They can send their representatives to NELFund. The schools that have been found culpable or that have issues with this loan thing are there. They have student unions across those schools. They can visit those schools to demand accountability and transparency on these things. Because of student loan now, you not go and block the expressway. Just imagine.
That on page 12 as well in the Punch newspaper. Revenue collection inefficiencies cost power firms 965 billion naira. Page 29 captures that. Statement credited to the power minister, Adébáyọ̀ Adélabú. Makinde moves 5 commissioners in fresh cabinet shake-up. Page 3 captures and says Nigeria risk losing youth generation to drug abuse and mental health crisis. I know this has always been a continuous conversation. I just want us to reiterate that.
A big one now,
sincerely, the Guardian has done justice to the analysis, even on the front page here, saying that 1 in 7 Nigerians between the ages of 5% of boys in corrections challenged. Children as young as 11 now abuse substances. As young as 11 now abuse substances. It's right there. And several reports right there. Cannabis farm distribution, over 1.2 million. Numbers of participants, over 3.3 million. Counseled and rehab, just 22,000 at 47. Convictions, 10,572. Fuad. It's becoming alarming. I don't even want to go into details in the Guardian newspaper because it has always been a thing of concern, really, especially in this dispensation. The youth, the kind of youth we have nowadays and how we have been handling. I don't know.
I think my fear again is how to really tackle this particular issue. We talk about advocacy. That's always been there. People have always been talking about the dangers of substance abuse. But again, the numbers keep certainly true. Social media is not helping. Because again, the things that we used to condemn, we grew up in communities where there were things that you cannot even come out to claim you are doing.
They're like taboos.
It was a taboo. You don't, for example, and if they insult you and say, "Amugo," you almost go and go there and die, kill somebody because they call judicials, and they don't understand the level of influence they have on the people and do holding these things we are talking about. And it becomes a model for others. So the standard for morality has gone down the drain, really. Nobody cares. They are there. You can't be mentioning it, or you know the people I'm talking about. They are there, and these are people of influence. If you want to check now, the population of people we are talking about abusing substances, how many of them are even listening to us this morning? They are probably on social media pages. Look, a young lady scholar was doing a live on how to speak good Instagram live, and I think the best she got at that point of people who joined were less than 200. At the same time, one of these popular celebrities, that are joined immediately. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm sure if you check the people who joined him at that time, there are this set of people we are talking about. So the things we used to say, no. When they bake cake now, they put it. They do donuts, they put it. Meat pie now, you think it's meat pie. It's India empire that we have all around.
Almost every edible now. Every edible.
They don't put that. So, and the fact is that, look, apart from the issue of mental health challenges, I fear for the organs of most of these youth when they get to a particular age. Kidney, liver, because when you have organ failure, it's a show. Apart from a lot of them that will end up in psychiatric home, it's a big problem. But is anybody paying attention to it? They demo? I don't know.
Away from the physical effects and consequences that would even have on anyone abusing drug, threatens national stability. more concerning the effect, the general effect, societal effect it will have in a nation or on a nation as a whole, rather than even the physical effect it would have on you, liver, whatever.
Gangsterism, cult clashes, sexual violence. In fact, a lot of people will tell you, experts will tell you that because when you are high, the tendency to commit crime is there. You don't see it as anything. That's why you see young people who are young boys now who are so happy to hear girls in the name of rituals. They can't do that with normal eye. There's no way.
That very
it's a big problem.
It
very
is.
Big problem.
That big problem has been reported on page 6 in the Guardian newspaper. Very concerning. Also from the front page of the Guardian, we have Electoral Act, crucial bills set up for debate as Senate and House of Rep resume to, looking into bills for the consolidation of all elections in one day and the disenfranchisement of citizens on special duties. Maybe, or do you neglected talks and conversations about electoral reform?
This piecemeal approach to electoral reforms will not work. It has to be holistic. We've always been doing this. And the only way for me that will make it valuable, reasonable, and effective, it will count, is for us to go and pick that Muhammadu Buhari's report of 2008. That report is there. It's a complete document on how to reform the entire electoral process. There was something that gave back to that recommendation. And it's a story that we should pay attention to what led to that committee being set up by the late Musa Yar'Adua. And the eminent Nigerians that sat on that panel, that committee, to draft what is currently considered the best approach to reforming our electoral process. The document is there for us to dig up. Let the assembly dig it up and make it a point of reference in their process of reforming the electoral process. All this piecemeal approach is just it's not going to lead us anywhere.
All right. That on page 6 in the Guardian newspaper. Also, Dangote is hailing Tinubu for appointment in the energy sector. Page 2 captures that in the Guardian newspaper. And also, we have imperative of improved aviation operations before Fly Nigeria Act. That's an editorial story on page 12 in the Guardian newspaper. CSOs demand Akpabio's resignation as court affirms conviction of resuming officer. Page 7 captures that story, saying...
you and I know you would never resign. They said the man only did it. He never did it for him. The story is a very funny one.
Let me.
The man has been jailed for... Okay, you might.
Let me just quickly, the coalition of over 56 civil society organizations, the CSO, has now called on the Senate President Godswill Akpabio to step aside following the Court of Appeals confirmation of the conviction of Professor Peter Ogban, the returning officer in the 2019 Akwa Ibom Northwest senatorial election, for manipulating the poll in favor of Akpabio. And the appellate court sitting in Calabar on Wednesday upheld the 3-year prison sentence earlier handed to Ogban, who was found guilty of falsifying the election result to benefit the former minister of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center and all of that. And the CSOs acknowledged, that while over the credibility of the process, and they maintained that in the interest of public confidence, respect for the rule of law, and integrity of Nigeria's democratic institution, the Senate President must temporarily vacate his position until matter is conclusively addressed.
Well, you read out the story, and that's the story. Again, it's unfortunate that the old professor, as an election umpire, will go ahead and forge a result in favor of a candidate. That in this case, in favor of then Senator Godswill Akpabio. And eventually it was found that the results were forged. This was the guy who manipulated the results in favor of the current Senate President at that time. He was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment. He appealed the judgment of the Federal High Court, and now the appeal court has affirmed that sentencing, which means the appeal court is still saying he's guilty. And so what people are saying is that, look, if election results were forged for you, for the sake of you can't do anything. So the question we should ask ourselves, if we can even ask the professor question, who sent you to go and do this? Can you just do it for fun and land yourself in jail? Is it possible to just rig the election for somebody without being told to do it. Is it out of love or stupidity or what? The whole professor, Lady Mo.
It could be anything. Maybe influence.
It could be anything like what? Like what?
Influence of the spirit.
It could be spiritual problem.
I don't know. I didn't say that. Page 7 captures that very story. Quickly, we also have FEC prioritizes local industry. Yesterday, approved a new policy framework tagged to Renew Hope Nigeria First policy. That's what Donald Trump is doing in the US, the Africa's First doctrine. Which is directly reflected in administration's official foreign policy documents and actions. Are saying, okay, we should, renewed hope agenda, renewed hope Nigeria First policy.
Instead of us, and because it is the mere slogan, I remember as a very young person too. I remember Vision 2010, Lady Mo. Later with Mission 2010. I think we're on Vision 2050 now. Because again, it's just to get people excited unnecessarily. Too many documents, with beautiful slogans, but without any clear intentions and commitments to really implementing anything. So wait to see what name did you call it again?
Renewed Hope Nigeria First policy. Nigeria First policy.
Nigeria First.
Yes.
Okay. So
Nigeria First.
Okay. Right.
So want to tackling focus
like
on local, focus on local that's definitely what we are hoping to see. That's what we are hoping to see. Federal government
can take the lead.
Well, definitely that's what we are hoping to see.
Instead of buying all those designer suits, they should buy go to Itoku in Abeokuta.
Yeah.
Let's begin to
locally made.
We're local, it's local. Yes.
Yeah.
We have people who manufacture vehicles in Nigeria. They should buy, instead of buying those big Lexus, Escalade, let them be buying nothing. Let the leadership, by example, to start with them, and then I'm sure that the others will follow.
The Vanguard
instead of buying foreign rice, buy Ofada. Let's begin to say Ofada.
A good rice, and it's sweet, very, very.
It's a good one, but they should take the lead. Let it start with them.
Well, leading by example. Federal government bans procurement of foreign goods produced locally. That's how the Vanguard captures that on page 8. Also,
you see now. You see. Before we move on.
Okay.
They said they want to ban goods that we are producing. Why not the importation of petrol? Petrol, that is the new policy. That anything we are able to produce locally, we should ban its importation. Can we also ban the importation of petroleum products? Can we not produce that locally already? They should not exempt that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it should be part of it. It should be part of it. I mean,
it is not, because people are still importing the product into the country.
It's just yesterday they talked about that. So let's see. It should be part of it. Is Nigeria? We are producing crude locally, so
we are refining it locally now. So why continue to import?
So let's see how it goes. All right, Fᴜ, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll come back for Mainland Focus. We'll be back for Mainland Focus on Morning Express, Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. I remain Mo Dukwe Akinyosoye. Keep it locked.